Hi, my name is Catherine. I'm a registered nurse, and today I'm going to talk to you about asthma. Asthma is a chronic disease that affects the airways in your lungs. These airways, otherwise called bronchial tubes, allow air to come in and out of your lungs. If someone has asthma, his or her airways are always a little swollen. When someone has an asthma flare-up, or otherwise called an asthma attack, something has triggered their airways to become even more swollen, extra mucus to be produced in the airway, and the muscles around the airways to tighten. All this causes someone's airway to become narrow. This makes it very hard for a person with asthma to breathe. This is what your airways look like before and after an asthma attack. So you might be wondering what can cause someone to have asthma. Sometimes asthma can run in families. If someone has a mother, father, brother, or sister with asthma, his or her chances of also having asthma increases. It is believed that also the genetics, which means if your brother, sister, mom, dad has it, that means it runs in your family, and environmental factors, and also it contributes to someone having asthma. Other things can also increase someone's chances of developing asthma. Examples are being overweight, being a smoker, if you are exposed to secondhand smoke, exposure to exhaust fumes or pollution, exposure to things such as chemicals used in farming, hairdressing, or manufacturing. People with asthma often have different triggers that can cause them to have what we call an asthma attack. These include cigarette smoke, allergens, which are things in the environment, such as fur from animals, especially dogs and cats, dust mites, pollen from trees, grass, weeds, and mold. Respiratory infections, such as cold or the flu, exercise, changes in the weather, cold air, hot air, humid air, pollution in the air, such as from smoke or from the cars, stress, preservatives that are added to some foods and drinks such as shrimp and dried food, and also gastric reflux, or when someone also calls it like heartburn is another name for it. The right combination of medicines for asthma depend on a variety of things, such as your age, your symptoms, your triggers, and what works best to keep your asthma under control. Medicines can come in different forms, such as pills, inhalers, which are handheld devices that are used for breathing the medication into your lungs, and you can also carry them around with you or in your purse. And also there's something called a machine called a nebulizer, which is comes with a little face mask you put on, and it connects to a little machine, and you put liquid medication inside, and it turns the medication into mist, and then you breathe it into your lungs as well. But mostly the nebulizers are used for smaller kids that aren't very good with the inhaler yet. But also it can also be used for older kids when the inhalers don't work to give them the medicine in their lungs. This is an example of an inhaler. This is an example of a nebulizer machine. There are some medications that you have to take every day to reduce the swelling in your airway that can lead to symptoms. The symptoms I talked about earlier. These are called long-term control medications. These medications make it less likely for an asthma attack to happen by keeping it under control day to day. Examples are your inhaled corticosteroids, that they're called, which these medications help to reduce the swelling, or otherwise called inflammation. And some examples of the most common ones that I use in kids your age are Flovent, Pulmicort, and Cubar. But there are other ones that can also be used, but these are the most likely. It may also take several days or even weeks before these medications reach their maximum benefits, meaning that will help you totally control the asthma symptoms. There's also oral medications that can be used. They're called leukotriene modifiers. I know it's a big word, but these medications help relieve asthma symptoms for up to 24 hours. and the most popular one used or I've seen is singular, that they use in kids your age. Quick relief or rescue medications are used to relieve symptoms during asthma attack quickly, but they don't last a long time. Meaning if you're exercising, all of a sudden you feel that tightness in your chest and you can't breathe, then you take this medication and it helps to relieve the tightness in your chest and you're able to breathe again. But it doesn't last for days. It only lasts for a few hours, if that sometimes. Sometimes they are used before you exercise to help prevent an asthma attack from coming on. Examples of these medications, which are also inhaled using an inhaler, the ones that are most commonly used for around kids your age are albuterol, Xopenex, and Atrovent, but there are many others that can also be used depending on what works best for you. If an asthma attack is really bad, sometimes you have to go to the hospital, or depending if how your doctor orders it, they give a oral corticosteroid or another steroid, and this also helps to relieve the swelling caused by severe asthma. So sometimes they do both at the same time. The one I talked about earlier about you inhale the medication. This one you take. They have two forms. The form that you can take, it's a pill, and it takes a little bit longer to work, is called prednisone. You can take this pill, and it helps reduce the swelling. If it's a really bad attack and you have to go to the hospital, then most of the time they'll start an IV on you, and they'll give you a steroid called methylprednisolone, and this helps to relieve the symptoms very fast. Also, another medication that can put you on long term, depending on what your allergies are, or what your triggers are allergy medications, such as Claritin or Zyrtec, and they help reduce triggers that are in the environment. That may be your trigger. So once they have you on medications, they want to see how these are helping you or how they're not helping you. So they'll do something called lung function tests. There's two tests that are most commonly used, and there's one is called a spirometry, and the other one is peak flow. So spirometry is a test that estimates how narrow your airway is by checking how much and how fast you can breathe air in and out or exhale after you take a deep breath. Usually it's machines. I've seen them in offices or in hospitals. These are not ones that you can take home with you. These are like computers that test all this stuff. The other one is called a peak flow meter, and this measures how hard you can breathe air out. It's a little portable device, which I have an example of one right here. This little device, and it allows you to blow air into it like a balloon. It's like you're blowing a balloon. That's the way they tell you to do it. It measures how well your lungs are working, and if you can't blow air out as much air as you usually can, it can be you have an asthma attack soon. You're going to have an asthma attack soon. So in the next hour, or even a few days away, it's not going to tell you you're going to have one in 2 minutes or anything like that. It's going to tell you it's more or less you could be going to have one in the future. It's important that you do it 1 to 2 times a day, because this is how your doctor might measure how well your asthma medications are working. Or it can also see they might expose you to something and then have you do a peak meter before they expose you to it. They put it in front of your face, and then after you do it to see if it's one of your triggers. When you use it, you should always set the peak meter to 0, which I don't know if they can show very much, but it's this little yellow thing right here. It should always be at 0. You don't want it anywhere else. Then you should stand up, take a deep breath, and hold it. And then you're going to blow out. You're going to hold it like this, and you're going to blow out the air as quickly and as strongly into the peak flow meter as you can. And there's a little yellow thing that's going to move, and there's a little line right here, little colored lines and little numbers that will tell you where your number is. So you're going to want to write it down and see which number it is. You're going to do this 3 times and record the highest number as your reading. So you're going to take the best thing that you can do. The higher the number, the better it is. When you see your doctor, you're going to get him all these results. and then they're going to set up 3 zones for you, depending on what you and your doctor decide is the best for you. A reading in the green zone, all the way up here, green is always good, of course. It means your airway is open, so you're good to go. A reading in the yellow zone means you might be at risk for having an asthma attack, or you might be having some symptoms such as the coughing all the time, or the tightness in your chest, or the little bit of wheezing. And you should talk to your doctor about what you should do if you are in this zone. And of course, the worst zone, always red. Red is stop. Red always means bad. It means you're going to need medicine fast, and you should see your doctor or your nurse practitioner as soon as possible. So in this zone, you're probably going to be using one of those quick-acting inhalers to help relieve your symptoms. You're probably already wheezing, can't talk, you have the tightness in your chest, and that's that zone right there. So now I'm going to talk about some ways that you can prevent from having an asthma attack, and some lifestyle choices that, of course, can also help you from preventing having an asthma attack. So first, you're going to want to not smoke and try not to be around cigarette smoke if it is one of your triggers. So if you have a friend that smokes or something, you're going to tell them not to smoke around you. You also want to get your flu shot every year and to wash your hands frequently to prevent from getting sick with any respiratory infections and the flu, because those can trigger you to have an asthma attack. You can also use an air conditioner in your house. You can ask your parents to help reduce the amount of pollen that comes inside. It can also lower the humidity in your house and reduce your exposure to the dust. If you don't have an air conditioner, you can make sure that all the windows are shut, especially in the spring or when all the pollen seasons are around for your area, when there's high pollen counts outside as well. So you also want to use dust-proof covers on your pillows, mattresses, and your dust springs. So on your box springs, so that no dust settles inside of it, and when you lie on it, you can breathe it in, and it causes an asthma attack. Also, removing carpeting is very good. Maybe you could talk to your parents about removing carpet in your house, because it can, no matter how often you vacuum it, it can still contain any dust and allergens that can cause you to have an asthma attack. They can replace it with tile or with laminate or hardwood floor. You can also ask your doctor about using a dehumidifier. It can help if you live in a damp area to help get rid of some of the humidity in the air. You also want to prevent mold from growing by cleaning the damp areas in the bathroom, the kitchen, and all around your house. You want to make sure that you want to reduce pet dander, that if one of your triggers is animal fur, or that you want to make sure that you want to avoid having any pets at all, going to people's houses that have any cats or dogs, or asking them to put them away, if that's depending how bad that your trigger is, if it's just when you're around them, or if it's any the dander, the stuff, the fur, the skin cells that falls off them. If you have a pet, you want to make sure that they are groomed often and they have been given a bath soon, often, also as well to help reduce anything from falling off them. You also want to make sure you clean regularly, at least once a week. If there is a potential for dust, you can also wear a mask if you're the one doing the cleaning and helping your parents. You want to make sure that when you're outside and it's cold, that you cover your mouth, because asthma can be worsened. You can get an attack when there is cold air or when there is dry air. I know exercise can also be a trigger, but you want to make sure that you're exercising regularly, because this can prevent you from having an asthma attack and control symptoms during the activity. Of course, you always want to make sure you take your inhaler that you're supposed to before you do any exercise. By exercising, you strengthen your heart and your lungs, which helps relieve asthma symptoms. You want to maintain a healthy weight. If you're overweight, it can worsen your asthma symptoms. And you want to make sure you avoid going outside on a really windy or on really dusty days, because of course this can make your asthma worse. And the most important thing is always make sure, if you're on controller medications, that you take your controller medications, you take your inhalers, or you take your pills that you take them. Even if you're feeling well, you need to make sure you take them, because if the levels go down at all, you can have an asthma attack. The last thing I'm going to talk to you about today is to make sure to have an asthma action plan. An asthma action plan is something that you create with your doctor, and it's specific to you, and it's to help you control your asthma. Of course, everybody's asthma is different, and one thing is not always going to help for the same people. There's not just a list of stuff that will help for everybody. Everyone's different, it's unique, everyone's unique. It should have what medications are your controller medications, what medications help prevent from having an asthma attack, and sometimes it can help be a little bit of trial and error before these medications are found. You should also have what are your quick relief medications, what medications you have to take in case you have an asthma attack, how much you take of it, and how often you have to. It will also say when you should call your doctor or when you should go to the ER when you're having an asthma attack or when you're having symptoms. It may also have your peak flow readings that you have, and what is green, what is yellow, and what is your red zones, meaning what's your good zones, what's your okay zones, which you should be watching out, and what's your red means like an emergency, you're having an attack or asthma attack. And of course you want to make sure that you understand your plan, you understand your medications, you understand your triggers and everything, and you want to review it with your doctor. If you guys have any questions, there's a good website called kidshelp.org, and this has information and things that are specific to teenagers for you guys, so they can go ahead and help you understand a little bit about more asthma and what you can do and different ways to do things and how you can prevent things. So thank you guys for watching, and I hope you learned a little bit more about asthma. Thank you very much.